Holy God, open our hearts to your love, our ears to your word, our eyes to your presence, and our lives to your call. Amen. Well, it's nice to see you all from this angle. I don't get to look at you all very much when I'm at the piano. I just pray that you bear with me as I speak and as Katie speaks. We don't claim to be great biblical scholars, and we may be young, but I am of the belief that we can all learn from each other. And so I hope that you will come with us as we talk a little bit about the scripture that we have for today. What do you do to alleviate your fear?
Last night, I was in Kent for my youngest brother, who is 11, for his first boxing match. Now, I don't know about you all, but I'm sure the parents and grandparents of the children who are in sports understand the anxiety that I was feeling when I saw my little brother in his little gloves, and he's up against this other kid, and I had this sudden realization that they're actually going to be hitting each other, and my brother could get hurt. And while that was exciting and exhilarating, and I was really excited for him. He'd been preparing for this for over a year. I couldn't help but be afraid because I wanted to protect him. What if he got seriously hurt? And what if he lost? How would I comfort him as an older sister? And all of those things were swirling up inside me. So while that fear is on a smaller scale, there's no denying that even the smallest fears can sometimes seem insurmountable. They consume us, they eat up our thoughts, and sometimes ravage our bodies. If you, like myself, struggle with anxiety and depression, you know this feeling all too well. Something about this fear allows us to forget the peace that was once very settled within us. The power we can command over our actions and thoughts vanishes, and we feel helpless. When I'm in that state of mind, all my thoughts are overtaken, and I feel as if I have no other headspace for any other thoughts but those anxiety and fear. No room for positivity or glass half full kind of mentalities, only this fear that is all consuming. Sometimes, having a steady, fortified thought against our fears can seem impossible to muster. Our fears that we have all experienced may not have taken place upon a fishing boat. Well, maybe I don't know if you're a fisherman or a fisherwoman. But I doubt that all of us have had the experience that the disciples had in this passage that we are studying today. But the fact is that we have all experienced fear. And maybe some of us here have experienced and felt the effect of imminent, life-threatening fears. So, why would a God who is all-powerful, who knows the very depth of who we are, why would he put us in a position to be afraid? Let's look back at the text. He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased and there was a dead calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" The disciples' fear was never about the storm. Okay, it might have been a little bit about the storm. I'm sure it was probably a little bit terrifying to be out on the water where this great storm was occurring. But if we listen to verse 41 again, and they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Their fear had not subsided. It had only moved from the storm trust the power of his voice, to trust that he was God and man, and had gifted them with the ability to stand tall in the midst of their fears, and feel the power that he is in the midst of every kind of storm, whether it is literal or figurative. If you think about it, most humans have a very difficult time trusting others. The fact is, people on this earth are imperfect. And though we may try to demonstrate agape love, perfect and unending, we fail. Our trust. So, it is natural for us to experience the struggle of mistrust in Jesus' voice. And I don't think that that is something that is said very often in church, because if we mistrust, then we must certainly not be true devout Christians. But in fact, that's not the case. God calls us clearly and strongly to remind us in the midst of the struggles that we are emboldened with his strength if we trust him. Within the Christian circle, we are surrounded with the reminder that God is the Lord of everything and everyone. Even earlier in the service, we sang God of wonders and oceans. When the seas roar and the things around us fail, we are supposed to take refuge in the knowledge that Christ is mighty and powerful. It seems so easy and poetic to imagine Jesus as the protector and the avenger, but harder to imagine the actual voice that Jesus used when he calmed the storm. I think it would be nice to conjure up this idea, this fantasy that Jesus had this low, rattling, earth-shaking bass voice that caused everyone to pause and listen. And I'm sure that when the disciples were first getting to know him, this was the image of the Messiah that they were expecting. However, I have a sneaking suspicion that Jesus continued to alter their and our perception of him by being what we need, but not in the way that we believe we will receive it. Katie will introduce us.
So Desiree did a great job of outlining the beginning of the story, the fear that the disciples must have felt, and how Jesus isn't always who we think he is he? But this story is more than just a story about the disciples and their doubts and their fears in that day. It's about how their vision was clouded. Here are men who've spent months with Jesus. They'd seen him heal people. They'd seen him and heard him teach. But even though they claimed to know the man they were in the boat with, they failed to trust him. In this story, Jesus takes a moment to reveal who he truly was. He reveals himself to his friends, to his disciples, to his followers in this moment. David in Psalm 89, verse 9 says, "You rule the swelling of the sea. When the waves rise, you still them." And again, in Psalm 107, verses 25, he says, "For he spoke and raised up a stormy wind, which lifted the waves of the sea." And then further down in 29, he says, "He caused the storm to be still, so that the waves of the sea were hushed." David recognizes that God is the God of the winds and the seas, and if he wants to cause a storm to rise up, he can. If he wants to still it, all he has to do is say one word. So in this moment, Jesus is saying, "It's me. I'm God. I have that power. I have that authority." So imagine you're in the disciples' shoes, Imagine you've spent so much time with this man. You've seen him heal. You've heard him teach. I mean, in Mark, chapters 1 through 3, it's full of stories of Jesus healing and of teaching. Yet in the moment it came to put their faith in him fully, they backed out. The disciples had seen Jesus' baptism. We know that the dove came down out of the sky and said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." They heard that. They knew of that. So to me, I think how incredibly stupid of these men to have spent so much time, to have so much proof, and to not trust in him. But don't we do the same thing? In my life, I've had 5 open heart surgeries. 5. Each and every one of them could have gone horribly wrong. My heart could have been weakened. And yet here I stand. I'm alive. I wasn't supposed to live past my first birthday. But here I am, 22 years old. Ooh, too young for that. So, you'd think that with that as a reminder in my life, even more so, I have a permanent scar to remind me of God's love, of God's purpose, and of God's power that worked in my life from a very young age. But still I doubt. Still I fail to trust him and to rely on him. So I think that we can all agree, since we're here, that our lives aren't random. I think many of us believe wholeheartedly that God is in every circumstance. But when life throws us a fastball, when life asks us to truly test our faith, we forget who we have in our boat, don't we? Or maybe you know who's in your boat. Maybe you believe that Jesus is in your boat. But every once in a while, you don't like the way God calms your sea. In Luke, it says that the disciples were fearful and amazed. Not just amazed, but fearful and amazed. And surely, after seeing everything that Jesus was capable of, these men wouldn't have been amazed at his ability to calm a storm. But the disciples were human. They grew up hearing stories of this big, powerful Messiah who is going to ride in and set them free. Set them free from the oppression of the Romans and just save them. They were conditioned to believe that their Messiah was aggressive, that he was a battle-minded man. So I think that these men were amazed that the person that they saw had all the qualifications to be their Messiah would simply speak to the waves to calm them. Where was the anger? I mean, Jesus was catching up on some much-needed sleep. He had spent all day preaching. He had to get in the boat just to get away from the people. Yet there was no power in the way that the disciples expected power. Instead, he led by example, and he calmly stilled the seas. Hush, my translation says. Be still. It's almost as if he was calming a child. Hush, be still. You can almost feel and hear the affection in his voice with that one sentence. Hush, be still. So from this story, there's so much to glean. We can learn that it's possible to face all the storms of this life, whatever it throws at you. Because nothing is more powerful than our God. And we have Jesus in our boat. However, we can also use this story to learn how we're supposed to face these storms. The disciples, they responded in fear. They doubted the man they knew. And for that, Jesus rebuked them as well. Said, "Have you still no faith?" We should take that and we should strive to respond in the opposite manner. We should strive to respond in faith and in trust, knowing that our God is with us. He's in our boat, and He can do all things. We should allow God to work in our lives and face every storm with Him by our side. As Desiree mentioned, we just sang the song Oceans, and in it says, "You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand." That's the kind of faith we need to strive to develop. The kind of faith that allows us to step out of our comfort zone into the waves and know that Jesus is there to protect us. We should also strive to respond in the way that Jesus responded. Like I said, He didn't respond with power or aggression or anger. Jesus responded gently. You don't calm a child by yelling, "Hush! Be still!" That's just going to make them cry more, right? You're gentle with them. You take them into your arms. "Hush now. It's okay. Be still." And that's exactly what Jesus did to those waves. So whether your storm in this life comes up as a job, or maybe it's a person, we all know they're out there, or maybe it's just a situation, we can choose to take on that same kind and gentle and loving voice that Jesus had. And we can look at our situations and the people in our lives and say, "Hush, be still."